Hello, this is Eric from labofcoding.com. In the last video, we introduced functions in Python and we looked at how to create functions, and we created two functions, the hello function and the square function. In this video, we'll pick up from that and we look at the various argument types that we can pass to functions and how to work with them. So I've opened Atom here, a file known as main.py, and on the left I have the terminal open. So we can create a new function. Let's call it getSum. You can use the pass keyword if, for example, you have a function that you've written, but at that point you don't want to put the logic in that function. So you can use the pass keyword. In this case, it does nothing, but it makes the syntax valid, because without the pass keyword, the syntax will be invalid and your code will not run. So let's say we have our function getSum and it takes positional and keyword arguments. In Python functions, the positional arguments will come before the keyword arguments. So let's say we have a positional argument n, another one m, and let's say we have another one o. In this case, o will be a keyword argument in that it will be assigned to a given value. Let's say this one will be 7. So in this case, the two positional arguments m and n are mandatory, but o, because it's a keyword argument and it has a default value set, it's not mandatory. So let's say we will just return the sum m plus n plus o. Then we can call our function getSum. So we can say total is equal to getSum, and then we can pass the first variable. So our function should have m first and then n. So let's pass m as 10 and n as 7, and then we can print the total. Because we have not passed the third argument, the o argument, it will use the default value of 7. In this case, it will be 7 plus 10, which should be 24. So we can run our code on the terminal with Python 3 main.py, which is the name of the file, and we get the output as 24. But we can also pass the third argument, which will override the default value 7. So let's also pass this one as 10, in which case our total will be 27. So in that case, we get the value as 27. It is possible in Python to pass what are known as variable positional arguments and variable keyword arguments. For now, if we look at our getSum function, it is only limited to 3 arguments, and the first 2 are mandatory. But in some cases, you may not know beforehand what arguments you may need, what number of positional arguments you may need, and what number of keyword arguments you may need. So, for example, at one point you may need the function to be called with 3 arguments, at another point with 4 arguments. So it might be important for it to be possible to pass a random number of arguments to the function. So that is possible in Python, and we look at how to do that. To be able to pass a random number of positional argument, we can use the star keyword. So let's say, for example, in our getSum function, we will only be taking the m argument, which will be mandatory because it's a positional argument, and then we can use star args. So in this case, star args will be used to unpack the variables that have been passed into a list. So in that case, you can pass any number of positional arguments, and using the star and then the word args. So args in this case will be pointing to a tuple or a list. So let's say in that case, we will get the sum, will return m plus, and then we can use the sum function, and then we can pass args. But before that, even we can also loop through args. So we can say for e in args, print e. So because of that, we can pass several arguments. We can pass, let's say, so in this case 10 will be pointing to the m argument, and then 6, 9 and 4 will be unpacked into a list pointed by args, and then we are accessing that tuple or list. We'll be accessing it in the function, and then we can loop through it and print the element, and then even pass it to the sum function to get the sum. So we can run our code. We find that so as you can see, we are looping through the args tuple that has been unpacked, and then we are printing each element, and then finally we are getting the sum and returning it. So you can call it any word instead of args. You can say even positional. You can pos. It will still be valid and the code will still work, but the default, the convention is to call it args. But the convention is just to call it args to make it clear to whoever will be using that function. So in the same way, it's also possible to pass a random number of keyword arguments. So in this case, for the keyword arguments is quags, the double star and then quags. In this case, the random number of keyword arguments, they will be unpacked into a dictionary, and then you can access that dictionary in your function. So because quags will be a dictionary, we can loop through the key value pairs. So we can say for kv in quags.items, we can print the key, then we can print the value. So now our function can take also a variable number of keyword arguments, and we can pass any number of keyword arguments that we want. So let's say, for example, we can pass the keyword age, and let's say that is 24. Then we can say email. Let's say that is something like e@g.com. So the two keyword arguments will be unpacked into a dictionary, quags, and then we loop through them in the function and print their values. So we can save that, and then we can run that with python3 main.py, and then you can see first we are looping through the quags dictionary, and then we are printing its values, and then we are looping through the args tuple and then printing its values, and then finally we are returning the sum of the positional arguments. So that is how you can use the star args and star double star quags to pass variable number of positional arguments and keyword arguments. This is one way of passing the random number of keyword arguments, and you can also pass a list. So let's say, for example, we have a list of values. In this case, let's say it's the same values 6, 9, and 4. So instead of passing 6, 9, and 4 in the function, we can pass that values list, but we should prefix it with a star. So in that case, we'll say star values. So in this case, the values 6, 9, and 4 will be unpacked as positional arguments in the function call. And then we can do the same for the age and email. So we can say data is equal to, and let's say age is 24, and let's say the email, so the email is e@g.com. So we can save that, and we can also use the same syntax. So we'll use this double star quags. In this case, it's not quags, we've called our dictionary data, and so the elements in the data dictionary will be unpacked as keyword arguments to the function. So we can save that one, and if we run our function, we can see that it's working as before. So that is how you can use the star args and double star quags to pass a variable or a random number of arguments to your functions. It may seem a bit complex, but it's very simple, and it's a powerful way to create functions that are flexible in the number of arguments that are passed to them. So that's it for this video. We'll pick it from here. Thanks for watching.